Good evening. I will call the Finance Committee meeting to order on February 18th, 2020 at 7:38 p.m. This evening we have 4 items on the agenda. The first one is a transfer request in the amount of $1,331,902 to undesignated fund, free cash to undesignated stabilization. The next item is a transfer request in the amount of $1,331,902 from the undesignated fund to the OPEB trust account. And the third item is a mid-year transfer request totaling $838,902 from various departments for FY20. And the last item this evening is a proposed salary ordinance amendment as offered by the mayor relative to Chapter 125-6 of the Code of the City of Marlborough. And the first item will be order number 20-100-7927A. I'll read the letter written from the mayor. Transfer request, the OPEB and stabilization. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, please find enclosed for your review 2 transfer requests from the undesignated fund, free cash, each in the amount of $1,331,902 to the undesignated stabilization and the OPEB trust. Late last year, free cash was certified at $13,319,020. As a result, I'm requesting 2 transfers of 10% of the total free cash funds to our stabilization OPEB account in keeping with our financial policies. Investing in our stabilization and OPEB account ensures we are strengthening our financial foundation for years to come. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Entertain a motion to approve the 4 items.
So moved. No,
I don't know, the president left me
too easy, Mr. Mayor, too easy.
I got carried away.
I have to say, it is a great policy that we have with the 10%, and for the councils that are new, it's OPEB stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits. It is certainly an amazing thing that this city has gone this far to do this compared to other communities. But anyways, I'll let you fill in the blanks.
It just, this is based on the policies that we established a couple of years ago, putting more money in our stabilization fund as well as putting it in OPEB. And we're getting we've built up to a reasonable stabilization fund. We try to keep in there 10% of our operating budget. So we're in line with that. And also the OPEB and contributing money every year. It's such a huge liability in the city and went up substantially the last year. But this is to pay for the health insurance benefits for our retirees over the long run. So right now this is required on our balance sheet. The state hasn't required us to fund it yet, but we're getting a head start on it. And very few communities have actually taken the initiative to fund it. We put a small amount on the budget every year, and then in addition to that, we add the 10% from any free cash that we do have. So the only reason we wait a little bit into the year is to see if there is any large items that come up. And consistent with other years, we don't have any large items other than the snow and ice, and I'll be coming down with a capital request, and we'll probably be paying our equipment item through the free cash. So we'll still end up the year with quite a bit sitting in the air that will roll into next year.
And I like to also stand corrected. It is order number 20-100-7927B. That's the one for the OPEB. I apologize for going out of order on that one. But
Yep, they're both like I
yeah.
said, we're just trying to set ourselves up financially. That's why we've established a AAA bond rating, and we want to make sure we continue to keep that.
I'll open it for any questions. Councilor Orm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Where does the fund actually stand right now, Mr. Mayor, with the balance, that, in the OPEB balance?
I can,
The 10,000,
There's 10
with this transfer in the OPEB trust fund, it'll be $10,373,000.
So that's the balance of that account. So by adding the 1 million, we're almost very close to
That's after the transfer.
after the transfer. So, and I believe, and maybe our president might remember, but we were, I thought, 30 million, am I correct, when we first started this contribution of 10%?
We're up over 100 million.
I thought it was, but I said maybe it wasn't, maybe it was 30. So it's come down considerably.
No, our liability is up over 100 million.
That's what I was asking, I'm sorry, our liability's at 100
This is
million?
what we've established at this point, between the earnings and the amount we put to the side. That's that $11 million number, $10 million
Yeah,
number.
but when we first started, our liability was well over 100 million, if I'm
Yeah,
not
it's
mistaken.
creeped up because of changing population. Every time we have an actuarial study, they take the new employees they have, figure out how long they're gonna work and retire, and how long they're gonna be out retired for. So, you know, the actuarials do something magic with their calculators and come up with these liabilities that we have to move forward on.
And if I may, and that's why it's difficult to make a determination how many more years we'll be needing to add 10% to it.
Well, we also established a plan where once our retirement system for all our retirees is 100% funded, and that got kicked out a little bit also, we're gonna be taking that additional money that we have, putting towards the retirement system, and that will all go toward OPEB. So hopefully we see some good returns in the upcoming years with the retirement system, bring that liability back down where it should be. And then once we get that paid off, all the additional funds will go into an OPEB to get rid of that.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, maybe through the mayor, is just for the understanding of, for the general public to understand, it's not that our employees aren't paying into the retirement or paying a percentage for their medical. This is the difference for the medical and other employment benefits.
This is the portion of the medical that the city pays for all our
Yes.
retirees. It's a $100 million liability.
It just shows you the cost of medical, basically. But the retirement that an employee receives is paid by the employee and managed by the retirement board.
Yes, they pay a percentage, and then we have a liability, again, based on an actuarial study. So the employees pay a percentage. Whatever the difference is that we have to make up comes from the city.
Okay.
So they pay a flat percentage every year.
Which is about, how much, what's the
Different employees
percentage?
have different amounts. I believe the top's 11%.
so,
Is it,
Mr.
Mr. President,
So I just want, so I work with the mayor on this and Diane hears it all the time. So why I got upset last year, because the retirement fund got pushed out 3 years, all right? That costs us, that's about that's the $30 million that you were talking about that it would cost to pay that. That's money that we were supposed to be putting into the OPEB account, all right? So now instead of paying off our pension in 2025, it's now gonna be paid off in 2028. It now has pushed out our OPEB out to 2046. So I'm gonna throw out a gazillion numbers at you and just say, uncle, when you're done. The mayor's right, we got a $51 million liability on the pension side, that again gets paid off in 2025. We got a $118 million liability on OPEB, which doesn't get paid off until 2046. All right, so that's why I get very irritated when we want to start adjusting stuff. The goal should be pay down that pension and get it off the books, all right? Just to help the mayor, because I get the latest statements on the OPEB. We currently have $11.1 million, so with this transfer, we'll have $12.4 million. So the mayor's policies have set the city up to get us in the right spot to start paying it down. But it is a lot of work, and you gotta be careful with pension and OPEB. I mean, they kind of go hand in hand. If you extend one, you extend the other. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. There's no further questions. I will entertain a motion.
So moved to.
I
move
will
the
second
fund.
that. Motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 20-100-7927B, a transfer request in the amount of $1,331,902 from the undesignated fund to the OPEB trust account. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And then the next one is,
Item 1?
yes.
Okay.
Yep. And the next one is order number 20-100-7927A, and this is a transfer request in the amount of $1,331,902 from undesignated fund to the undesignated stabilization fund. Mr. Mayor? So in this,
Again, that's just the, going into our stabilization account that we just talked about.
any questions from the committee? Councilor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At a recent meeting, we approved a transfer request that the mayor had brought down, and I apologize, Mayor, I did not question why we were taking the money from open space at that time. So I wonder if there's a possibility of taking some of the 1.3 million and putting the 400 back in open space. And I know it's really one big chunk, but it is sort of divided into 3 items in the analysis report that the council receives. So it's open space, economic development, and undesignated. So you're putting the million into undesignated. We currently would then only have 189,397 in open space.
I'd be happy to talk to you about that, about bringing down an additional transfer. I'd rather put the full 10% in the undesignated stabilization, and then, you and I can follow up on the discussion. I have no issue taking an additional $400,000 from free cash and backfilling that if that's the pleasure of the council. I don't have an issue. I just want to put the full 10% in, and then I can come down for an additional transfer for the $400,000.
Okay. Is it not true if there ever was open space that we wanted to purchase, that it doesn't necessarily have to come out of open space? The transfer could come out of undesignated or even out of...
That was actually an account I had asked the council to set up back 20 years ago through the building department, that 10% of the fees would go toward an open space fund. So that's where the majority of that money comes from every year. We transfer money into that account. It's really a year-end transfer, but it comes from, we had established that through the council some 20 years ago in transferring it into that account. So, but if we've actually tried to negotiate 2 other parcels in the city for large open space tracts and haven't been successful in coming up with a number, but if we were to find a tract for $1 million, we would take some money from either stabilization, from free cash, and the balance would come from that open space account. So if we did find something, we're not limited to just that one number.
Okay.
That's just been designated through a council order some 20 years ago.
Okay, so I guess I'm not as uncomfortable. I would just like to see, so we could talk then and see if...
No,
you're
whatever the pleasure
amenable
of the
to-
council is, I'll be happy to do that. I
Thank
just don't want to break up this 10%, but
Okay, understand, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Rhodes. Any further discussions? I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I will second that. Motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 20-100-7927A, a transfer request in the amount of $1,331,902 from undesignated fund to the undesignated stabilization. All in favor? All opposed? It carries 5-0. Okay, so the third item this evening is order number 20-100-7928, mid-year transfer request from the mayor. I'll read the letter from the mayor. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, please find enclosed for your review an approval mid-year transfer request from several city departments. As always, city department heads who have requested transfers will attend the future Finance Committee meeting to discuss these requests with you in greater detail. The 2 transfers proposed for my department are designated to cover payroll through the end of the fiscal year. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vision, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is something we've gotten the routine of doing for a number of years now. Halfway through the year, we send out requests to all our department heads. What are you short in as far as line items? What do you have for excess money in different line items? And with the process that has been established through President Ossing and you and myself, a lot of it has been cleaned up because we've been allowed to do inter-department transfers without coming back to the council. These are the ones that actually have to be jungled around a little bit. These are the things that used to come down every meeting to get approved, but some departments had some surpluses. We have some substantial surpluses in the bond interest this year because we had to establish, Mr. Donahue had to establish, an estimated rate and be conservative about it so we didn't fall short. It was the timing of when we went out for some of the bonds and bands, so we have some surpluses there, but most of the departments are in pretty good shape. We're just shifting things around. This is all within our current budget. There were no transfers from free cash in here.
And this would take care of the remainder of the fiscal year.
I would say it would take care of the majority of the fiscal year. My guess is we'll be down here for one more, hopefully only one more transfer, probably toward the end of the year.
Okay.
Clean up some last final things.
Okay. Well, then, as the committee, I will we can look at the individual transfers, and then at the end, I will be looking to entertain a motion to approve the entire order. We do have the letters from the individual department heads. Is there any particular one? Oh, Councilor Orm.
Well, I was going to say I do have a question on the contractual food inspection funding request. I don't see an issue with the request to transfer with what's been happening with these level staffing, the staff leveling. But at the same time, will the contractor be able to provide that additional services up till the end of June?
Yeah, I think this was more precautionary than anything else because we're shorthanded down there by one person. So this was to make sure we had the available people in place to make sure that everyone's getting their regular inspections. And the gas side's done a great job in keeping things going down there. We just had a new person start at the local inspector level, and he's been backfilling along with our outside consultant, but we're in the process, hopefully, of bringing someone else on board that will pick up that slack. But we wanted to make sure we didn't fall short, we didn't run up against it, so this would be additional funding.
So if this present contractor doesn't have, say, the depth, then you'll be looking for another contractor to assist?
They've always come through for us anytime we've asked for support. These are the people that actually helped us out 7, 8 years ago.
Same group.
Stepped right in, so she and her team do a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that would be a total of $15,701 for the sanitary. Next, I guess I will look at for the police chief, for the Marlborough Police Department. He's looking for a mid-year transfer of $115,050. Good evening, Chief. How are you?
Good evening. Yes, so in total, the request transfer would be a little over $115,000. $95,000 of that would be for contractual increases. The current agreement with the command officers was not signed until after the submission of the budget last year. So when we recognized that, I spoke with the city auditor and the city comptroller at the time, and they stipulated that the best way to address that would be at this time, immediate review.
And then, is there also money here for any new officers as well for academy, or?
Actually, the last transfer, the 3,500 for the initial equipment, we anticipate sending 4 new officers to the academy in May.
Okay,
So that's just for their initial equipment.
The equipment.
Outfit them when they go.
okay. Thank you, Chief. I'll open it up to the committee for any questions. Thank you, and that is a total of $115,050. Thank you, Chief. Next one, we do have the letter from the building commissioner, Cook. And this is for a transfer of $4,800.
Correct. I've been using the money, we're short of, the plumbing inspector is retired.
Yep.
And so this is backfilling the, alternate position. And I've been using the money, transferring it into office, in department from, the alternate fire inspector. And now I need to backfill both of those.
With this one, okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Any questions?
That's good.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. That was for $4,800. Okay, so the next one, for $12,800 is from the clerk's office. And I believe that, oh, Mr. Clerk, good evening.
Yes, this, just a couple of things. Advertising, we can never kind of forecast. The council's passed some different zoning and things, and we're responsible for some of the ads for the planning board, so that ate up a lot of our advertising budget. And then there was an oversight with programming. We need to pay for the programming of some of the cards for the election.
For the election.
For the upcoming March 3rd election.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
That's all internal.
And that's all internal. Any questions from the committee?
No, that's good.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk, and that's for $12,800. Okay, and then we'll go with your office, Mr. Mayor, which is $144,950 for, let's see, for the executive aid line, and various items.
My right hand or my left hand is coming to help me.
That entire amount is not specifically for the mayor's
Thank you.
department.
No, correct. Thank you. Thank you, Diane.
I was
Thank you.
worried when I
You
heard
threw me
that.
off there.
Sorry. I stand corrected, thank you.
There are a number of payroll accounts that, for whatever reason, needed additional funding to make them whole through June 30th. The mayor's aid line was one. We also wanted to put more money into the summer employment account. It ran a little higher than we had anticipated the end of the summer. So we're looking to replenish that so we can hire some kids come this June. The part-time city clerk line item was $500 short, and that was just an oversight when we put the budget together a year ago. We didn't budget for a step increase. The local building inspector, if you recall, for the counselors that were here for last budget, and I had actually sent out an email, the building inspector, the building commissioner hired a new inspector that wasn't originally budgeted in FY20.
20, that's right.
So this transfer, which is $44,000, that will cover that new position through June 30th. Then we had a retirement in the building department, so we're looking for funds for the plumbing inspector's vacation payout and sick leave buyback payout. For the retirement appropriation, there was a memo that we received from PARAC saying that there was an additional appropriation that we were responsible for to cover an individual that was out on military leave. So that amount, 5,600, is to cover that. Brian Dahenny, the previous comptroller, before he left, he did his year-end review, mid-year review, and he had mentioned that the property liability insurance account was running short. We had there were some changes that were made at the beginning of the year that were unforeseen and weren't accounted for in the original budget a year ago. And then veterans benefits, the monthly benefits are running slightly higher than we anticipated.
This seems like higher than the year prior, which I guess is a good thing that we are a city that is helping our veterans.
And it fluctuates, all the time. Some come on, some come off. So it's not, a stagnant number every month. So this will backfill that account. The majority of the money is coming from reserve for salaries. Any salary line item on this transfer, it made sense to take it from reserve.
Reserves, yes.
And then, as the mayor had mentioned, there is surplus monies in interest on the books, so we're taking $67,600 from the interest account to fund the retirement transfer, the property liability insurance transfer, and veterans benefits.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Diane. City Auditor, thank you. Councilor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question on the veterans benefits, because that seems like it can fluctuate now and then. That seems to be the only one that possibly could fluctuate here. Is that going to be sufficient, or will you need to come back to see us?
Well, obviously, we have a new veterans agent that we put on the books last week, and their appointments will be coming down to you in the next meeting, but he's been doing a great job in getting some of the benefits out to our vets. It's really, it really does fluctuate because you have no idea how many you're going to have to service during the year. We are reimbursed from the state for a big chunk of that, so it's not like it's completely paid from our budget, but we try to get as many benefits out to our veterans as possible, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the reason for the...
We're pretty confident that this will make it through the year.
That was the reason for the question. If not, I'm sure all of us would be receptive to another request if need be. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It looks like the building sick leave buyback in the retirement fund is very low for the available funds. Will you need to suspend the rules so we can approve this sooner than later?
No.
I don't think we're all.
No, I don't anticipate any other retirements that we know of or that Jeff knows of, so this should be all that we need.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
I know, keep fingers crossed.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure she understood the question, though. Do you need to have us vote on this at next Monday's meeting? So the money's in the account for you to pay this? Or can it lay on the table?
It's paid when approved, so if we get it approved on the suspension, great. If we don't, we'll pay it at the next one.
Okay.
As long as we're moving through the process, that's
Okay.
important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Motion to approve.
That was $144,950. Thank you, Diane. Thank you for your help. I appreciate it. And the last one is for $545,000.
Mr. Chair,
Oh,
did we
Mr.
call a vote for the motion to approve?
We're going to
do them
vote
all.
the entire order, yes.
Sorry.
The next item is from Commissioner Goloni for $545,601. Good evening, Commissioner. And obviously, a lot of this is from reserves for salaries to take care of some of the contractual amounts.
Well, the majority is reserved for salaries. On the first page, I have 4 transfers from within my operating budget. And part of it is, so for legal services, I've transferred from solid waste, $50,000 for legal services for our case with the town of Northborough, and we have the weed care contract, which is up on April 1st, so we need attorneys consulting for the closeout of that contract. That's the first one. The second one is $200,000 transferred into rubbish collection from solid waste disposal. Again, it has to do with the We Care closeout on April 1st, transferring funds to another account in order to pay Republic for the balance of the year. And I just would like to, and then I'll do the next one first. And then the next one is protection services, which is at the resident drop-off. We had a private company that worked for us we had a contract with them through November of 2019, and there was a dispute in the contract as far as minimum wages, et cetera, and they wanted an increase, and procurement said we couldn't do the increase, so the contract was canceled, and we have temporary help working there now, so I'm transferring that into salaries. Of those 3 accounts, they all deal with We Care and waste disposal, and we're in the process now of reviewing for the remainder of this fiscal year. So I just want to say, the mayor said most of the transfers are here tonight, but I'll be back again to finalize transfers from those accounts once we have all the numbers in.
And how's that looking in the future for price-wise on the trash removal and rubbish and recycling and all?
We don't have everything in at this point. We put a bid out for sludge, and we're negotiating with Republic at the moment. We will be able to finish this fiscal year without an increase, and based on what we have at the moment, I don't think we'll have an increase for next year.
Thank you.
And then the other one is a foreman account, a salary account, which is in the school budget, school maintenance budget, and I'm transferring that into the city facilities budget. The remainder of the transfers are all for the engineering union. We signed a memorandum of agreement with the engineering union at the end of May.
Yes.
That money was not budgeted for FY 2020, so those are all the transfers to finish off fiscal FY 2020
For 2020.
for the engineering union, yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll open up to any questions. Council Perman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to go back to the municipal solid waste. And I know this was a transfer for 3 months, and you indicated that you might come down again. I was just curious, like, long-term plan regarding municipal solid waste. And I know you mentioned the possible Republic contract, but I was just curious how that is moving forward, since I know that costs across Massachusetts that cities are facing is the increase of sludge removable.
So we're right now in negotiations with Republic for the municipal solid waste disposal. We have a contract for Republic Services, which runs for another 2 years for the household pickup, curbside pickup. But this is just for the disposal, which We Care have done. So that's not finalized yet. We're almost there. And then as far as the sludge goes, which again We Care handled, we had put that out to bid, and we're negotiating with the low bidder right now. So I don't have all those facts at this point, but we'll have them soon.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Council Orm.
It may not relate to all this, but it's the news everywhere you go, is that some towns and cities are having budget issues with the recycling end of pickup due to cost of pickup, and then not having it bought through the other markets, might it be China or some other countries. If you could touch on...
The fortunate thing is we still have more of our contract to go.
Yes.
In
So you
negotiations that we're seeing the problems when they want to renegotiate and have to increase their fees substantially. And I think the president will support me on this, perplexed that the state has completely dropped the ball on this. They continue to give out grants to increase your recycling when we have no place to put it. Doesn't even make sense. Rather than trying to find a solution as to what we're going to do about recycling and going to the manufacturers, they continue to do grants to increase our recycling rate, which once we hit 2 years from now when that contract runs up, we'll be in the same shoes as everyone else. So we're hoping that by the time our contract comes up, there's something in the pipeline to help all the communities out, because some trash haulers, and I've asked the commissioner about it before, and he doesn't seem as concerned, but some communities, they've walked right out. The haulers just left. I think it was Taunton or down in that area. They just walked out and said, we're not doing it. So there's options out there, but it's just, we have a little bit of breathing room where most communities, some communities that had their contract expiring had to renegotiate it.
And if I may, so we got to start looking into this in these next 2 years, obviously. And hopefully, like, there's other ideas, and I don't know if this is one of the states, but maybe looking at food waste. I know it's only a small percentage, but it's a percentage of the waste. Whatever can help. Obviously, we're up against the world economy, not just Marlborough, but the whole country and so forth. But I look forward to seeing, possible solutions, as you noted, Mr. Mayor. Thank
If I
you.
could just comment on the food waste. Ted Scott is putting out a request for proposals right now. As far as food waste, he's spoken to a number of contractors, and we're in the early stages of that, but we're looking at that to have a collection of food waste for curbside.
Thank you, John.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. President.
So again, part of the MMA committee that I'm on, we meet monthly on this, and the people they came to present to us, and I passed it along to Ted, 30% of the waste generated is food waste. And so that's a pretty high number. So if you can get that out of the waste stream, that would be significant. But
It's a good,
haven't figured
it's a
that
good
part
point.
out yet.
Council Perlman.
Thank you. I just wanted to also comment on the benefit of getting the food waste out of the municipal waste overall. And then also, I know I had shared with Commissioner Galoni some information around Wellesley's recycling program. And one of the benefits of it statewide is because it's not single stream, which is usually why so much of it gets removed, because it's damaged and it can't be sold on the market. So it'd be great maybe if we could look to other communities and see what they're doing around recycling and how that might benefit us after the 2 years is up.
If I could comment on Wellesley, again, Ted Scott's my expert on it, and Ted went to Wellesley last week. And in order for us to even compete with Wellesley, I need a staff of 14 people. That's what Wellesley has, 14 people that work there, recycling and residential drop-off, to the tune of $1.2 or $1.3 million in labor costs. So I can compete with Wellesley when the mayor will give me 14 new employees at the resident drop-off.
Find another alternative.
Council Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So is Ted looking into composting, or is he looking to have it picked up in a separate pickup at the street, at each
Looking into
house?
having a separate pickup at the street. He's had conversations over the last month, and he's putting in our request for proposals out to see what interest we get for that.
Okay.
And it's in the early stages, so I'm not there at this point with any of it, other than we're looking at it and getting ready to do it.
All right, because I know they're doing some pilot composting across the
We
state, too.
we looked at the composting, and the problem with composting is the foods where you get the odors. So
You're
you
not
have to
doing
be
it right.
careful as to how you're recycling on a massive scale with all the food, because if the wrong ingredients are in there, that's where the odors come from, and that's what we're hopefully getting away from March 31st from the We Care facility. So.
And then I also was curious about the foreman in the schools. That has not been used at all. It's a vacant position. Is it one you hope to fill, or will you go away with it?
I have not found a candidate yet, but I have a laborer, so I'm transferring the funds from the foreman's position to pay the labor at this point.
So someone's doing the job?
As a laborer, yes.
Okay.
Any further discussions? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second that motion? We have, motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 20-100-7928, mid-year transfer request totaling $838,902 from various departments for FY '20, which moves funds from and to accounts as noted in the attached order. Any further discussion? Oh, Councilwoman.
Sorry, I don't think you talked about the health department transfer, and we do have,
We did it first, but we'll-
Council Orr brought that up.
Oh,
We
okay.
can revisit it. Yeah, Council.
all right, I'm sorry, I guess going through my papers, it's like there's
There was
50,000 pages of transfers, and it didn't
All
look like
through there.
you. All right, sorry.
I'll entertain a motion. All in favor? All opposed? It carries 5-0. Okay, so the last item on the agenda this evening is order number 20-100-7929, A salary ordinance, order and ordinance amendment. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, please find it enclosed for your review an order proposing several changes to salaries within the city of Marlborough upon city approval. Based on the scope of work these board members and employees do, I believe that their salaries should be adjusted to reflect equitable pay and current municipal market demand. Additionally, for council's consideration, I've included an ordinance amendment removing several of these positions from the current salary ordinance as rates are reflected in the enclosed order. I recommend adjusting the stipend of the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals. These boards are required to prepare for and attend regular evening meetings. I believe $150 per meeting would properly compensate the important work done by these boards. Secondly, I would like to rectify a situation with the Council on Aging's part-time social service coordinator. The position, formerly a volunteer coordinator, received an increase during the fiscal year 2020 budget, but a salary ordinance was never established. Attached, you will find a salary ordinance establishing the position with compensation equal to that of a clerk in the city of Marlborough, step schedule also attached. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have a few different things we're doing here. First of all, with last year's budget, you were kind enough to give an increase to the social services coordinator over at the senior center. So the money is sitting there, but the former finance chair said, that's great, but we don't have an ordinance in place. So, and then we hit the end of the year where we started, can't make changes to positions toward the end of an election year. So one thing led to another, and here we are. I'm finally sending it down, and hopefully can get an ordinance in place. And what I did is I tied it right in with the clerks, rather than have another salary amount. I had it tied in with that line item, but it's not a clerk, it's a social services coordinator. In addition to that, I have, first, would like to eliminate we actually have salary ordinances on place for the crossing guards in the city, and positions like that. So I've asked to eliminate that salary ordinance and implement these other 4 different positions at these rates. So they'll be established when the budgets are presented to the council. Questions can be asked, how much are they being paid? This is to establish $150 per meeting for planning board members, so if they don't show up, they don't get paid. $150 per meeting for zoning board members. Again, if they don't show up, they don't get paid. Detention assistant, we have detention matrons in the police department that show up in the middle of the night if for some reason we've brought someone's been brought into the station that has to be attended to by a female. If we don't have a female officer on duty, we bring a detention matron in the middle of the night to keep to be there during the process. So it's amazing that we have a couple people that actually show up for these. It's such a small amount. So I've asked that we implement an $18 an hour, not to exceed $18 an hour for that position. Parking enforcement officer, I believe, is somewhere around $10 in the city right now by ordinance. And again, we haven't been able to find anyone to fill the position downtown. It's been an issue because of having little control of the downtown parking. People are parking out on Main Street all day long. It causes some problems for some of the businesses. Again, would like to ask that that's approved up to $18 an hour. The mail clerk in City Hall has been with us a while based on the former controller. He had asked me to include this one in the position, that it would be nice to see if we could get that position an increase, and I figured to be consistent, we'd have it not to exceed 18. And then the final one is the crossing guards in the city. Again, by ordinance, they put in a couple hours a day, very difficult to find these people. We have 3 at this point. One of them is leaving, so that's why this was brought to my attention. And again, I would like to pull that out from being an ordinance, eliminate the ordinance, and just establish the $18, up to $18 an hour for this position. So there's a lot of house cleaning here, but I wanted to be transparent in the whole thing and bring it all to your attention without implementing anything. And to be very honest with you, the crossing guard, even though we haven't gone up when we've done the increases of 2% or 2.5% for all our employees, the majority, unless specifically stated, were not given an increase in the part-time positions. This is one that has increased over the years. So, again, I just wanted to be consistent with it and bring it to your attention, so. But I'd be willing to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The question I had too is, if approved, where would we be in the FY 2021 budget? Where would these be following, do you know, in that budget? Like when I was looking for the zoning board of appeals, I think it was in the building inspectional services or
The
something?
board secretary's in there now.
Yes.
So we have a planning board secretary, we have a zoning board secretary, it'd probably be consistent with that.
With that,
and,
okay.
Or, you know, it'll be a line item in the budget, you'll be able to see.
You'll be able to see that.
And my guess is, we're gonna have to anticipate a number, because although the planning board is pretty consistent based on the
At least,
council meetings, we don't know how many members will show up, and the zoning board is only based on their requirements. If they
Correct.
need to have a meeting, they have a meeting. If they don't have a meeting. And now that they're taking over the special permits for the 1 and 2 families, they'll be having more meetings, but, so this will be an estimate for, in next year's budget. There's no funding in place for these. If this is approved, they have to come down for a transfer.
For the transfer. Any questions? Council Perlman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just curious what the planning board and zoning boards were previously paid. I know you mentioned the other positions, but I wasn't sure their original.
There's 2 different amounts, and I'm gonna probably be corrected by either the president or the auditor, but I believe the planning board is like $11.45 per hearing, $11.45 per hearing. Correct. Good. And the zoning board is $10.85 a hearing. They're both $10, $11 per hearing. So if they hear 2 hearings in one night, it might even be $15 an hour, 15 per hearing. But they get that, and that's it. So this would, and there's prep time and everything else, so it's not per hour, it's per hearing. If they have 1 hearing, it's either $10 or $15. If they have 3 hearings, they have 3 times that. They were actually receiving something different. We corrected it probably 4 or 5 years ago, because we found the ordinance that said $11.45 per hearing. So they're 2 boards that I think they have a big impact on the city, and they do a lot of work if they're doing their job. So.
And just to follow up, when these positions, if there are openings, are advertised, are these amounts going to be included to let people know that they would be compensated? It might diversify who applies.
To this point, no, we don't put the compensation in there because it's so menial, but it just, we probably wouldn't advertise that it's being paid. My guess is when you ran a Councilor Dumas or any of the councilors that have run in the past probably didn't know what the council was being paid. You're running for a different reason. When we post these, obviously, we try to fill the planning board and zoning board with people that have some background and those types of things to bring some expertise to it. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not, but right now, we've got a couple boards that are just about full, and it's been working pretty well, and they have been working with that small stipend.
Okay, thank you so much.
Council Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mayor, is the social service coordinator a union position?
No. It was actually funded by a grant back a number of years ago. It was paid through that grant. When the grant ran out, it was a line item in the budget. We just were funding it and paying it through the budget. And then when I was asked to increase it, I increased it in the budget. And then it was brought to my attention, like I said, by both the president and the council secretary, that there is no ordinance in place for this position, and there should be an ordinance. So
I guess I'm just curious, why is that one starting at $15.49, but a detention assistant could get $18?
this is by ordinance. The others are up to $18, but I just tied it into a clerk's number. Actually, I think the approval in the budget was somewhere around $16.50, something like that, per hour.
So it is tied to
It's tied to the
union,
current
or
clerk's
even though it's
position in
not,
the city.
okay.
Not city clerk, a clerk's position.
Any further questions? Okay, I will entertain a motion to, a couple things, motion to approve, to advertise, and to send to the city solicitor to make sure it's all good with legal. And then I will refer to President Ossing. Do I then have a second vote to establish the stipends, or one vote I could?
It's one, Karen clarified, it's on one order, Mr. Chairman, so one vote is sufficient with those three.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I will entertain a motion.
So moved to what you just said.
I will, thank you. I will second that. I will second that. Motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 20-100-7929, proposed salary ordinance amendment as offered by the mayor relative to chapter 125-6 of the code of the city of Marlborough. Also to advertise, send to the city solicitor, and,
I think if we
and approve.
we advertise the salary ordinance, the rest of it is by vote of the council.
Perfect.
And then you can refer the whole thing to the solicitor for review.
And we'll have it to the city solicitor. All in, any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you all very much.
I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? We are adjourned at 8:31. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.